Sitaram, and welcome. Good morning to all our listeners, both in Trinidad and Tobago and worldwide, on the various platforms that this program is being aired. My name is Ramnaresh Dwarika. Again, let me welcome you to our regular Thursday morning program on addiction and recovery, where we deal with problems of alcoholism, drug addiction, and let me just remind you all that this program is being recorded and it will be aired again on the same station at 10 p.m. tonight on both radio and television. It will also be posted on YouTube and Facebook so that those of you who are unable to stay for the entire program or who would like to refer it to send the link to someone else who you think may benefit from this program. This is the purpose of it, recording it and replaying it so that we can make it available to as many people out there as possible. Let me also say that this is an interactive program where anyone listening out there can call in the program. It's live. You can call 663-2335 or 663-1027. The numbers are on your screen, and you can interact with us here at the station. First, let me thank Francis and the team of technicians who source those videos and present them every week. This week were also, again, very interesting videos on the whole question of staying sober, preventing relapse and all of that. And I think on the 12-step program. I also want to mention this morning that we are very fortunate to have with us this morning Dave. You see the name Dave on the screen. Well, Dave is a very good friend of mine. Dave has been a very avid business person, but he had a problem with alcohol as well, and he will tell you about it when he comes on. But he has agreed to come on the program today and share his personal experience with alcohol, how he managed to get into problems with it and what are some of the things he has done to stay sober. And Dave is an active community worker. He has been involved in service. He's at present the treasurer of the Central Intergroup of Alcoholics Anonymous. He also sometimes facilitates the meeting. So I want to welcome Dave to our program this morning. And I want to let our listeners know that you can call in, of course, and ask questions of me or Dave. And we would be willing to respond to your questions. And of course, my number is on the screen, 671-3040 after the program. If anyone has any questions, still, they can call, because I know a lot of people seem to be a little bit intimidated to call live on the program. So Dave, if you will unmute your mic, and there's a reason why Dave does not put his picture on, because there's a tradition in Alcoholics Anonymous, he being a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, there's a tradition where members of the fellowship are not allowed to put their picture at the level of press, radio, and films. And I explained it on the last occasion, but I'll just repeat it again. It is because they do not want, if in the event that they should relapse, they do not want to bring the fellowship into disrepute. Because people will, the national community would say, but wait, that fellow was talking so much about Alcoholics Anonymous, helping him to stay sober, and look, I saw him drinking. Because this is a disease where people can relapse. But of course, it is our hope and wish and prayer that no member, no person who has decided to stop and who is staying stopped ever relapses. I, who work in the trenches, know the difficulty it has, to come to stop in the first place and then to stay stopped. So welcome, Dave, Sitaram, and good morning.
Hi, Sitaram. Good morning. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you clearly, Dave. And we are really happy to have you here this morning to share with us your experiences as a person in recovery. and also as an officer serving at the Central Intergroup of Alcoholics Anonymous. So if you want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself, whatever you're comfortable to share with us, the National Community Day.
Thank you very much. Once again, good morning to you and a pleasant good morning to your viewers and listeners.
Yes,
Well, I I had a lot of leeway growing up as a kid, when
right,
I get the opportunity to go online and so forth, my parents wouldn't inhibit me in any way.
right,
And normally for a youngster, what would that cause you to do? To get in the mix, to get into the crowd. And you start to take a couple drinks here and there,
right,
and you would leave that out. But later on in life, when I started to get into business, you have these occasions where you have to go in parties and stuff, and the drinking would be so prevalent
right,
that it would be abnormal if you didn't take a drink because all the rest of people is doing it.
right,
And alcohol, I always say alcohol does what alcohol does, and it catches up with you. And
right,
how it caught up with me, my wife noticed certain things happening with me. I would no longer come home on time. I would
right,
start liming out a lot. But she sought help for me early, and she found someone in this wonderful program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he came and spoke to me. As a matter of fact, he was one of my cousins, so she knew him well, and he invited me to a meeting. And I say invited because it is important when you are carrying this message to someone that you have a little idea of the type of drinker he is. And being quite honest with you, being a businessman, you're not going to get away by coming and telling me I have a drinking problem because I'm a businessman. Hey, I have a lot of vehicles. I have business. I cannot be no alcoholic. However, I did accept and I went to that meeting, and boy, oh boy, from day one, I felt tremendous changes. And I want to mention, if I can, of what happened in that meeting, because a lot of people is quite hesitant to go to a meeting, because I too am one of those people who thought AA is for people who sleeping in the bar. AA is for people who go on tour. But when I went, what I saw there, a camaraderie second to none. And I was lucky enough on that particular day to hear a gentleman who was speaking said, avoid the first drink one day at a time. And I want to say, Mr. Dwarka, that had a profound impact upon me because in the bar, being an active drinker at the time, you would hear, where is the next drink coming from? So it was total opposite and it really impacted me. And if that wasn't enough, I was introduced to the 12-step program that you just played here before
right.
the program. And I was mesmerized, I was intrigued. I didn't have the opportunity yet to start to give trouble,
Hmm.
but clearly you could see I started. And I found a way of life now where I can still be happy and sober. Because that actually was one of my main concerns. If I stop drinking, if these people have something to make me stop drinking, how will I enjoy that wedding? How am I going to go to the beach? Because everything you must take a little drink.
Right,
And boy, oh boy, in this meeting, they asked me to try to make 3 months or 90 days, whichever you think is shorter. Try not to drink and come to the meeting. Try to get into service. But I tell you something, my opinion is I did that, but I couldn't remember doing anything to remove this obsession of wanting to go to the bar anymore. That
right,
obsession was transferred to wanting to go meeting. So I am saying this to let you know my opinion because I know there are some atheists amongst us and I respect that. But I believe there's a power in that place that helped me. So saying that, I want to tell you that I want to thank those wonderful members from that meeting day one and thank
right.
God by extension to making me a sober man and giving me this quality of life. Yes, I know.
we're getting a little feedback, Dave. I don't know if you have the television or radio on.
No, I have
This
no
line.
television. I'm in my office. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, so you were saying, and you have been sober how long now, Dave?
It's over 8 years. Actually, 8 years, 4 months, and 8 days.
Wow, congratulations, man. And
Thank you.
how life has been since you have stopped drinking?
Well, excellent. Excellent. I think you can see clearly now.
Yes,
It's
yes,
a
like the
different way
song
of life,
says.
drinking and not drinking and still being happy.
Right,
It is fascinating. It is not easy to explain. I wish I could explain it, then maybe we could get a lot more people to come to AA, or at least come to attend the first meeting and see what it is. Because there's a serious misconception out there that AA is for people who go on through. So
right,
where I go in there for? Me I go on through. I have a car still driving. I have a
right,
house, and
right,
this seems to boggle the mind of a lot of people who's in dire straits, who's in real problem. But because they still have something now. Now, mind you, there's a lot of people who has lost a lot of things.
right.
But for the man who still has something, he's saying, no, he cannot have a problem. I still have a good job. And it's only when he lost it and it's too late, then he starts to pay attention.
You know, Dave, you are touching on a very important point because the average Trinidadian, and not only Trinidadian, worldwide, wherever I have been, I studied in Jamaica to the Caribbean, even visited Europe and even India and so on. And the impression generally in the world is that an alcoholic is a vagrant. It's a person who has reached, who is sleeping on the streets, who has no, you know, family, he's unkempt and he has lost his job and all of that. And yes, let me say from my own experience, yes, that person is an alcoholic, but that's an alcoholic who has reached the final stage, the last stage of alcoholism. But there are people who have two, three cars in a garage, who has a lot of money in the bank, who has a big business and all of that. And this is one of the reasons a lot of these people have difficulty because their idea of an alcoholic is a vagrant, and they
That's right.
clearly will not want to admit that they have not reached
That's right.
that position as yet. And you might have had similar experiences, Dave.
Of course. Of course, because first thing, hey, I'm a businessman. I cannot be an
Right,
alcoholic.
right,
Look what I am drinking. I don't want to call the brand because I ain't advertising for nobody.
right,
But I used to think, look, I drinking better than those guys. Is
right,
those guys have that problem. It couldn't be me.
right,
But unless you go and find out about yourself and start hearing these contributions as to some of the similarities the alcoholics have, you will
right.
realize, well, it's the alcohol. It's the alcohol is most of our problem. That causes most of our problem anyway.
Yes, well, I know that you have been involved in service, and currently you are the treasurer of the Central Intergroup of Alcoholics Anonymous. But tell us a
Correct.
little bit about the intergroup. What is the intergroup? What does it do? And so on.
Oh, sure. Okay, so as it indicates central intergroup. So this is for the central area. The
Right,
central area has approximately 23 active groups.
right,
Well, actually, it is 23 active groups.
right,
Okay, so every 2 years, all these groups come together and elect a bunch of officers. And if I may go on to tell you the specifics of these officers, they
yeah,
would nominate a chairman, a
right,
vice chairman, a
right,
secretary, an assistant secretary, a treasurer, and two trustees.
right,
And these officers would run the operation and address the concerns that the groups in these particular areas in Central may have.
right,
And also we have some pamphlets that we would distribute that would be read daily or nightly as maybe as most meetings in Trinidad at night time.
yeah,
So they would read to explain to the general membership what are some of the upcoming activities. What of course we have started listing that We respect all the security in schools, which is very important. Keep
Right.
the schools clean, and various information that would be relevant to the running of the groups. So these members would come once a month, preferably the first Sunday in every month, where all the group membership, one person would come and view their concerns. And then we would sit in that meeting and address it and have it approved.
Right.
So this way everyone in Central will know exactly what is happening. Like if there's a convention coming up, if we have an All Fools
Right.
card game coming up. And I just want to go back a little bit because your viewers may be saying, All Fools, what really going on by them fellas playing card and thing? It's not that. There's a
Mhm.
saying AA that although we stop drinking, we are not a glum lot.
Correct.
We do
Right.
have to encourage social behavior amongst the members. We have little card playing and so forth. We have beach lines. So we do a lot of stuff in a sober manner, which
Right.
might be surprising to a lot of people. And it is incredible to know the amount of fun that these guys, including myself, would have at these particular events. And it just proves that you can do all these things sober. So basically, that is just a gist of what the central intergroup is.
Right. Well, you know, as you said that a lot of people, and you had mentioned it before, there's a predominant view that you can't have a good time without taking a drink. In Trinidad and
Exactly.
Tobago, I have found that, and I was having this discussion yesterday with someone. If somebody come to your house and you offer them Morbi, you offer them Seymour's, eggnog, whatever, and you didn't offer them alcohol, they'll probably go and tell your friends, boy, I went to the man house and the man even offer me a drink.
Yes.
But all of those things are not considered drinks. You understand? Although they might be good for you. But
Correct.
in Trinidad, is a culture where we believe, and people who drink, and I being a person in recovery as well, I also understand that view, boy, can't even imagine having a birthday party or going there to a river lime and you don't have a drink. In fact, now in retrospect, I could look at people who for Christmas and functions and so on, the first thing on the list used to be the drinks. You
Correct.
understand? You feel you can't have a social occasion in Trinidad. And this is a view that is shared by the public. So that now that people are in recovery, Dave, they can't imagine how you're going to have a outdoors match or go to a excursion or have a cricket match, a family day, which I know the organization has been having. I've been invited to quite a number of them in the past, you know, and no drink. So the idea is to communicate to people in recovery that look, you could actually have a good time without taking a drink. That has
That's right.
also been my personal experience because now if we go to Cora, I know I know when we went, where we went, I know what they cook, I know what we had to eat, and I also know how we came back home.
That's
In
right.
my days of drinking and in your days of drinking sometimes, we don't know who eat the duck. Next day all you're remembering is the sickness and the vomiting and all of that. So I think you're making the point there that, now it is actually, what it is to have a good time. With alcohol, we want a false impression. And so
That's right.
other people out there have actually internalized that, look, they can't enjoy themselves without taking a drink, you know?
That's right.
So I know the intergroup service the various groups in your area, you know, the responsibility. And you mentioned earlier on that every 2 years the officers change. So is there a policy about that? That you must change, you have to rotate?
Well, it makes good sense for rotation, of course, but in the absence that there's no availability of people, I guess we can roll over. But
Right,
in this organization, we don't want to be stagnated. We want to give those who are willing to serve an
right,
opportunity to do so.
right.
I would
Yeah,
also like to mention
yeah,
that in the Central Intergroup is not only involved in the social aspect of creating these wonderful little social events,
right,
but we are also in charge of making panel sheets. Panel sheets is
right,
when we encourage groups to visit other groups and create a camaraderie. Because sometimes I might be from Cuba, and hey, there's a group quite down in Caparo we have
right,
never interacted in. So this panel sheet gives an opportunity for that group to visit me or I to visit that group. Also, there's other committees like the PI committee, the Public Information Committee,
right,
that the Central Intergroup eh, has recently formed, as a matter of fact, because um, this new bunch of officers, this new committee was formed just in the last half of December. So we're just
right,
almost into 4 months. The
right,
PI committee is the Public Information Committee, where we have designated to go into the drugstores, the hospitals, the police station, the various places that is high traffic to drop a little booklet that AA has that is called the Humi,
right.
that has some various very important information for the person who is seeking
Mm-hmm.
information on AA, or even to figure out if they would be having. I don't know if you would have one to
I
let the
have one here,
viewers
but
see it.
because the
But
green background, you will not see it.
yeah, it's
But
a
I use it
wonderful,
very much in my practice here.
very good, very good. So this way, when they see it in these racks, they can help themselves to one. They will know exactly what it is.
Let me just stick a pin here, Dave, and tell the public what this document has. It
Sure.
starts off with a summary of what Alcoholics Anonymous is about. It's called the preamble. And it also speaks about alcoholism as a fatal illness. You know, the nature of alcoholism, but some very important, or in fact, section of it that is very historically important is the 12 questions. This pamphlet has 12 questions that alcoholics all over the world have for so many years, over 50, 60 years, have been asking themselves in order to determine whether they are an alcoholic or not. And it has helped millions of people worldwide to make that determination as to whether they're a social drinker or they have now actually crossed that compulsive imaginary borderline into alcoholism. So there's the 12 questions that help people to determine whether they are an alcoholic. And there's also the 12 steps that was played at the beginning of the program that is listed in here. There is also very important for our population in Trinidad and Tobago that there are a lot of myths about alcoholism, you know, that I am bad, I am weak, a weak-willed person because I drink. That's a myth. And it goes on to explain what the truth is. There are several myths that have been cleared up in this pamphlet and some very good ideas about advice to new people coming in how to stay sober. There is also a questionnaire for young people to determine whether they are an alcoholic. And I think critically important, Dave, is the fact that there's a list of all the meeting places in Trinidad and Tobago, when
Yes, I will
and
just
where
take
they
it
are
now.
held, how to get in touch with them. So this pamphlet, I believe, should be in every household in Trinidad, in every school, in every public place, especially in the ministries of social development and health centers and so on. So I think you all are doing a marvelous job in that you are distributing these pamphlets to the various places where uh, you know the services interface with the public that might have a problem with alcohol.
Yes.
So you are saying this is your public information, but I know that there are other intergroups as well in Trinidad, Dave.
Yes.
I think there's the Northern Intergroup, and hopefully we'll have somebody on the program from North. Southern
Yes.
Intergroup, And you were mentioning earlier that you organize not only panel visit where group inter visit, but you also
Yes,
organize social events for your
correct.
membership.
That's right.
Um,
Mr.
um,
Dwarka, if I
yes,
may, as we are that topic, before
yeah,
I forget this, it is important to note, and I'm glad how you brought up that there's meeting all over the country, in the
right,
northern region, in the southern region, and right here in central. But it is important to note that there is a meeting place available every night in Trinidad.
correct.
So there's no excuse someone is looking, they might have to go out of the area, but there's a meeting available in Trinidad every night, every night.
You
And
know,
that is a plus.
Dave, I don't think we know how fortunate we are. You know,
That's right.
I studied in Jamaica, and in a big place like Jamaica that is several times bigger than Trinidad and Tobago. At the time when I was there were only five meeting places in the whole of Jamaica. Some of the islands only have one or two meeting places once a week or maybe twice a week. But we in Trinidad and Tobago, overall, we have about 120 something active groups. And if I may say so, in the community in which I live, Dave, which you're familiar with,
Yes,
we have five meetings on five different nights of the week. We have one on Saturday night at the Felicity Presbyterian School. There's one on Sunday night at the Felicity Hindu School. Then there's another one Monday night at the Presbyterian School. There's another one in the farm, in the gardens on a Wednesday night. And then there's another one at the Felicity Hindu School on a Friday night. So, yes, there's no shortage of meetings.
that's
But,
right.
you know, I think a lot of people, especially professionals like myself, we always struggle with the whole question of denial. It would always seem like the person who has the problem never seem to realize they have the problem. Have you ever had that experience, Dave?
Oh, that is true. Because everybody else can definitely see the man giving the trouble,
Right,
except the person who's having the problem.
right,
And that is why they say alcohol is cunning, baffling, and powerful.
correct.
And it's very important for us to always remember that. Because if it is cunning, baffling, and powerful, it therefore means, Mr. Dwarka, that we are always right.
Yes.
Now, there's a particular definition for alcoholism when I came in there. And first thing they told me, an alcoholic, an alcoholic is one who has crossed the invisible borderline. The next definition, an alcoholic is one who is unable to control his drinking. But
Correct.
here's what for you, Mr. Dwarka. An alcoholic is a man or woman who has his 2 feet firmly planted in the air.
Oh, okay.
Now, that is indeed a wonderful alcoholic joke, but it is also a serious state of affairs of the alcoholic condition because he's upside down and he's always right.
Yes. In fact, somebody was describing the alcoholic as a flambeau. You know,
Yes,
the flambeau gives light right around. That is, he can see what is wrong with everybody else. But
that's
right
right.
under his butt is dark, and it is in our language, it is called denial. Because of the demeaning nature of alcoholism, Dave, it is not something anyone wants to feel proud about. And this is why alcoholics and drug addicts, they resist the labeling of themselves as alcoholic or being admitting that that they are powerless and so on. But that is the first step to recovery. And you will know this, Dave, is that you have to admit that you're powerless over alcohol,
That's right.
that your life had become unmanageable. Because so long as you don't admit you're powerless, you're always going to be struggling with trying to manage and control and drink socially and always seem to be getting into trouble. And let me say this up front, there's a lot of people. This program, Dave, is not to dry up the world. You know,
No,
I don't have no reason, and we don't have no reason for, if a man can have a drink and enjoy it, nothing is wrong with that. This program really is about educating people to recognize the signs when it is going, when you have crossed that on, yeah, imaginary borderline, when you have moved from social into compulsive drinking, so that you will know that you have now become, and that is when you are aware that the drinking is causing you problems, whether it be health problems, financial problems, relationship problems, work problems. Once it is causing problems, legal problems, being arrested, breathalyzed, and all of that, and you still going back to drink, clearly you have crossed the imaginary borderline. You
That's
understand?
right.
And once you have crossed that, this is what this program is about, Dave. And this is why you are here today, to tell us that, look, there are options available. No matter
Of
how
course.
bad you have gone, there are places you could go for help. So if
That's
somebody
right.
wanted to contact the Central Intergroup, Dave,
Well,
where they can go, what they can do.
well, the simplest thing to do is to call our number,
Right.
right? And that would be 767-3344.
That is 76733.
44 intergroup, or they
Right.
can contact me. My number is 477-0928.
Correct. All right. So, and let me remind our listeners, this is an interactive program. I know, Dave, I know a lot of people they feel intimidated to call the program because, just like we were talking about, not only the person who have the drinking problem is in denial, the families as well tend to be in denial because they don't want anybody to know that one of their members has a problem with alcohol. And so
Yes,
I get a lot of calls after the program, but I suggest to people that they could call, and of course, people in recovery, people in your fellowship as well, they can call if they have a comment. You know,
yes,
of course, we don't engage in controversy on the program, but AA in itself does not want to engage in any controversy. But of course, members can call. Anyone having questions can call during the program or after the program. So coming back to
okay.
you, Dave, you all have any activities coming up?
Well, we do have
Um,
some activities coming up planned on the, but I don't want to jump it yet because on the 7th, which will be the first Sunday, our CIG meeting will be due.
right.
We like to discuss it first, but I can tell you that we do have a card game coming up.
All right.
You know, but and also before that, the GSO, Alcoholics Anonymous is celebrating the 68th anniversary, which is
Right.
a big thing coming up on the 21st of April, I believe, at the Dewey Secondary School.
Yes, well, last week we had your public information person from the General
Yes,
Service Board, Lal, and we were fortunate to have Christine Sicharan, the chairman of the General Service Board. And I know
wonderful.
that all the intergroups and the board, they work in tandem to get the message out, because the primary purpose, as I understand it, of the whole fellowship is really, to get the message to the person out there who is suffering. And in
Of
fact,
course.
this program this morning is another attempt in that respect. So I want to let our listeners listening out there that, look, alcoholism, is seen by a lot of people as a bad habit, as a moral weakness, and so on, but it is not. It has been recognized, Dave, as an illness by the World Health Authority, by the Pan American Health Organization, and indeed by our own government in Trinidad and Tobago, that alcoholism is a disease. So if you're
Yes,
suffering with a disease, it's not your fault. You might have been born with that genetic predisposition. So it's not your fault. However, Dave, and I want to say this to our listeners out there, although it may not be your fault that you are born that way or you have become that way, fact is, once you realize that, look, when I drink, I have problems. I spend money I shouldn't. I get into quarrels. I get into fight. I can't go to work. Whatever, health problems, relationship problems, financial problems, legal problems. Once there are problems, you need to do something about it. And fortunately, we have people like Dave with the Central Intergroup. If you're in the central area, There's also in every area in Trinidad, we have about 5 intergroups that
Yes,
suit the needs of
maybe
these
more.
groups. And actually, I know all the groups send representatives to your intergroup. Once a month, you all have your meetings.
Yes,
If the groups are having problems, they can bring it to the intergroup. And
of course.
the intergroup, I know, also are able to assist and to guide and to support the groups. I also know that your officers go out to the groups as an outreach to let them know what you're doing, what your plans are, and so on. So
That's right.
again, the office is located at Rivulet Road, I think, Dave.
Yes, that would be number 52 Rivulet Road
Right,
in Couva. They say it's in Castro, but it's on Rivulet Road.
right. And we have someone there. I know the board has someone there who is answering the phones, and the intergroup have someone there as well. I think you
Yes,
have,
we also have our office manager there
right, who
who's
is
available
on,
from 10 to 2 every day, except
right,
weekends.
right. So that, for our listeners out there, I want to let you all know that there are services available, not only by the state, there are services provided by the government, like the Substance Abuse Prevention and Treatment Center at Cora. There's also the Ward 1 facility at San Fernando General Hospital. And there's the various health facilities at the various hospitals. But there are also voluntary organizations, and I'm hoping that next week I want to ask all our listeners to tune in next week. We have a very exciting program where I'm it is possible that I will get someone to share a very interesting experience with you all. Administrator of a treatment facility for women from
Oh,
South
very good.
coming on the program, and keeping our fingers crossed because with technology, Dave, sometimes at the last minute you could have some kind of glitch and so on.
That's right.
But the idea, and again, I want to thank the executive of the Mahasabha board, not only for providing so almost all the schools in Trinidad, Dave,
Yes, with
it
meetings.
been given to Alcoholics Anonymous to have the meetings. But as I
Yes,
say so, I want to make an appeal to members. This is our home. We need to secure it. We need to be careful when we use the facilities, especially remembering next day that children have to come to those classes. So we have to be mindful that we don't, you're not allowed to smoke cigarettes to start with, and that you leave the place clean and tidy and fit. So I know we are coming up. I've been signaled by our operational team. Any final words you want to say, Dave, before we wrap up
well,
the program?
quickly, it would be remiss of me not to say this. When you come to Alcoholics Anonymous, the
Right,
recovery program is in the form of the 12 steps.
right,
But, but what is the definition of that 12 step? So I quickly want to read this here, and
right,
maybe your general audience will get a good idea of what it is. It was read out at the beginning of your program, and it goes like this. AA's 12 steps are a group of principles,
right,
and it says it is spiritual in their nature,
right,
which, if practiced, which means if you were to apply it, put it into your life, it can expel the obsession to drink.
right,
And I want to read that it can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer like myself to once more become happy. And this is happily without alcohol. And also, which is most important, to become a useful human being once more. That is my final comments. I want to also take this opportunity to thank you, Mr. Dwarka, for this wonderful job because we need more of this. There's so many people. I am sorry if you go by the rum shop now. And
mm,
you ever hear about it? One or two might say, and they might say something negative.
right.
And thank the radio station and your TV station for this wonderful opportunity to let the alcoholic or the person who may be suffering from some addiction to know that there's hope. So I want to thank you. Thank you for having me on. God bless you.
I want to thank you very much, Dave, for coming forward. I know you're a very busy man. You have a large workforce of people,
Yes,
to supervise and all of that, and for giving your time and speaking about your person. And I know that there are people out there who would recognize your voice and know that you're a member of the fellowship and so on. I want to ask people that they be sensitive, that you are doing this as a public service because of your passion and your love for your fellow men. You understand? I know
that's
that
right.
any alcoholic who has recovered, as they say, they don't want their worst enemy to ever have to go through that. And this is
That's
why
true.
AA members are so passionate to help one another. So I want to
That's
thank you
right.
again. I want to thank
Thank
the
you.
radio station. Yes,
Thank you. Sitaram.
Sitaram. All right, so we have come to the end of a very beautiful program this morning. I know as I said, it's interactive, but those of you who have questions, you can call my number 6713040 after the program, and I'll be willing to respond. As I said, this program is repeated again on the same media at 10 tonight. It will be posted in a few minutes on Facebook and YouTube. All you have to do is type in my name and you will be able to access it, as indeed a lot of the other programs that have been done in the past are there, so that you can use it as a resource if you would like to refer anyone to get additional help. So I want to thank all of you who were tuned in, and to let you know that next week again we have a very exciting program coming up. I would ask you all to make a note on your calendars so that you don't miss that one. I want to thank the radio station and Francis and all of those people who are behind the screens facilitating this whole production. And thank you all very much, and see you all next week, Thursday.